What would you do if you saw your wife making out with your own best friend inside a car? Lose control, throw punches, or break down crying? I chose none of those. I chose to smile. Why? Because I knew a small secret about my best friend. A deadly secret, one that was already eating away at his blood, and one that would soon destroy my wife as well. This is a story about patience, betrayal, and the quietest revenge ever carried out. But before the story begins, please write in the comments where you're watching this story from. Don't forget to like and subscribe so the channel Stories with Meaning can continue to grow and bring you even more powerful stories. My name is Adrian Cole, and if you ask me what my definition of heaven on earth is, I'll answer without hesitation. Coming home, smelling my wife's cooking, and seeing her smile as she welcomes me at the door. Simple, isn't it? I wasn't born into wealth. Everything we have today, a 2-story house in a quiet suburb of Pasadena, California, a sedan in the garage, and a comfortable life, is the result of 10 years of my hard work. I work as an operations manager at a logistics firm called Northway Freight Solutions. The job is demanding, stressful, and often forces me to come home late at night. But all that exhaustion vanished the moment I saw Claire. Claire, my wife. She is the most beautiful woman I've ever met. Her face is calm, her words gentle, and she always knows how to make me feel like the luckiest man alive. We've been married for 7 years. We don't have children yet, but we always believed that having each other was enough. At least, that's what I thought. In our peaceful life, there was one other person who played an important role. His name was Victor Hale. The music softened slightly, still calm. Victor was my colleague, my direct subordinate at work, and also my closest friend. He was flamboyant, always well-dressed in slim-fit shirts with an expensive cologne that lingered long after he passed. He was a smooth talker, funny, charming, and obsessed with nightlife, completely different from me, who was stiff and predictable. Since Victor was single, he often stopped by our house. At first, it was purely for work-related matters. Over time, he became like family. That night, heavy rain poured outside. As usual, Victor stopped by after work. "Just waiting for the traffic to die down, boss," he laughed. Claire welcomed him warmly. "Victor, I made oxtail soup tonight. You should eat with us," she offered. "Man, I'm blessed. The boss's wife is amazing," Victor replied enthusiastically. The three of us sat at the dining table. The atmosphere felt warm and comfortable. I sat at the head of the table, while Claire and Victor sat on either side of me. They chatted animatedly about cooking recipes and the latest movies. I smiled, enjoying my meal, occasionally joining the conversation. I was happy Claire got along so well with my friend, happy that she didn't feel lonely when I was busy. But there was one moment that night, one moment that should have been a blaring siren in my head. Claire stood up to get more crackers and walked behind Victor's chair. Whether intentional or not, Victor's hand, holding a spoon, lifted slightly and brushed against Claire's waist, just for a second. It was quick. Claire didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. Instead, she paused briefly, laughed softly at Victor's joke, then continued toward the kitchen. I froze. My spoon hovered mid-air. "Too bland?" Victor asked casually, breaking my trance. His face looked innocent, his smile effortless. "No, just thinking about work tomorrow," I lied. The night continued normally. Victor left around 10 p.m. Claire cleaned the table while humming, a habit she hadn't done in weeks. "Victor's funny, isn't he?" she said later in bed, resting her head on my chest. "No wonder you like working with him." "He's entertaining at the office, but his mouth gets out of control sometimes," I replied, stroking her hair. "But he's kind," she whispered. "Attentive," she added softly. I didn't respond. I stared at the dark ceiling. Why did my chest feel tight? That was Victor, my friend, the man I hired after he got fired from his previous job. That was Claire, my wife, who stood by me from nothing. Maybe I was just exhausted, I told myself. I held her tighter, trying to bury my suspicion. But that night, for the first time in 7 years of marriage, her embrace felt distant. Her body was there, but her soul was not. and a husband's intuition is rarely wrong. My heaven was cracking, and I was too blind to see it sooner. 1 week passed. I tried to forget that moment, convincing myself it was an accident. Victor was careless. Claire would never betray me. But doubt is like a parasite. Once it takes root, it spreads. Changes appeared subtly but unmistakably. Claire, who usually came home at 5 p.m., started coming home late. "Sorry, Adrian, the principal asked me to stay late again," she texted, almost every other day. Strange. She worked as an administrative staff member at Brightwood Private Academy. Late nights were rare unless it was exam season. When I questioned her, she snapped, "Don't you trust me now? I'm working for us, too." I backed down. I didn't want to be a controlling husband, but the distance between us grew thicker. Her phone, once left anywhere, never left her hand. Bathroom, kitchen, even while sleeping. One night, while she slept deeply, I tried to unlock it. The screen demanded a passcode. In 7 years, she had never locked my phone from me. My hands trembled. Access denied. She had changed it. The breaking point came Saturday morning. Claire was showering, and I was sorting laundry. Routine. Partnership. I picked up her work blouse from the day she claimed to work late. Then I smelled it. Not her perfume. Claire loved soft floral or vanilla scents. This was sharp, musky, sandalwood, mixed with faint menthol cigarette smoke. My heart pounded. I lifted the blouse, inhaling deeply near the collar. The scent was strong, as if someone had held her tightly for a long time. Then it hit me. Victor. A month earlier, Victor had bragged in my office. "Boss, try this. Imported cologne, $200 a bottle. Clients stick around." He'd sprayed everywhere. I collapsed onto the laundry room floor. The blouse felt like a gravestone in my hands. The scent on my wife's clothes belonged to my best friend. "Adrian, what are you doing sitting there?" Claire's voice startled me. She stood in the doorway, hair wrapped in a towel, fresh and beautiful, and fake. I swallowed hard. I had to stay calm. If I exploded now, she'd deny everything. I forced a smile, the hardest one I'd ever made. Nothing, just dizzy from the detergent smell. I shoved the blouse into the washing machine, drowning the scent, igniting revenge. "Oh, okay, rest up." Then she added cheerfully, "Victor invited us over for a barbecue tonight. You're coming, right?" I looked into her eyes. Once a peaceful lake, now a swamp hiding predators. "Of course," I said quietly. The washing machine churned violently, just like my heart. I knew it now. My wife and my best friend were playing with fire behind my back. They thought my silence meant weakness. They chose the wrong enemy. Curiosity is a poison with no antidote. After that, I could no longer look at Claire the same way. Every smile, every goodbye, I wondered, are you mine or his? Wednesday afternoon. Victor's schedule was usually free. Sure enough, Claire texted, "Coming home late again. Emergency meeting with the board." Lie. I knew the academy schedule. There was no meeting. Instead of going home, I drove to her workplace, not to wait proudly in the lobby, to hide. I parked behind a concrete pillar in the darkest corner of the lot, engine off, waiting. Rain drizzled down, turning the evening gray. 1 hour passed. Then, at exactly 3 p.m., my heart stopped. Claire walked out. She wasn't alone. Beside her was a man I knew all too well. That posture, that smug walk. Victor. They weren't holding hands. That would have been too obvious.
But their body language. God, that wasn't the body language of friends. They walked too close to each other. Their shoulders brushed now and then, and Claire laughed. A free, genuine laugh, one I hadn't heard from her in a long time when she was with me. They headed toward Victor's black SUV, parked in the far corner of the lot, away from the building's CCTV coverage. A strategic spot, a safe spot. They got inside the car. The engines stayed off. The headlights stayed dark. I held my breath. What were they doing? Why wasn't the car moving? 1 minute passed. 2 minutes. The windows of Victor's SUV began to fog up from the temperature difference. I couldn't see clearly, but I knew I had to. The devil in my head whispered for me to get closer. I stepped out of my car. The rain began to pour harder, masking the sound of my footsteps. I moved quietly, like a thief, even though I was the rightful husband of the woman inside that car. I crept closer, hiding behind another parked vehicle beside Victor's SUV. The distance between us was no more than 2 meters. Through a part of the window that wasn't completely fogged over, I saw it. My world collapsed in that instant. Claire, my elegant wife, had her arms wrapped around Victor's neck. They were kissing, not a brief kiss, a deep, hungry kiss. Victor's hands, those filthy hands of my so-called best friend, cupped my wife's face, then slid down to her neck. Claire tilted her head back, closed her eyes, and surrendered to the moment. It felt as if invisible hands ripped open my chest and crushed my heart until it shattered. My blood boiled, my muscles tensed. My first instinct was to scream. I wanted to grab a paving stone, smash the car window, drag Victor out, and beat him until he forgot his own name. I wanted to pull Claire home and scream at her in front of her parents. I took 1 step forward. My fists clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms. Then I stopped. If I lose control now, what do I gain? Logic whispered inside my nearly dead conscience. I would become a spectacle for the security guards, an emotional, embarrassing husband. They might feel ashamed for a moment, but afterwards, Claire would hate me. She would twist the story. She would say I was violent. And worst of all, Victor would feel victorious, knowing he had pushed me to lose my control. No, I would not lose twice. I took a long breath under the heavy rain, letting it soak my face, hiding the tears that were already streaming down without my permission. I slowly stepped back, my hands trembling violently. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I switched to video mode, flash off. I aimed the camera at the fogged window. Record it, Adrian. Record the destruction. 15 seconds. I recorded them drowning in forbidden passion. I recorded my wife's face burning with desire for another man. I recorded my best friend's betrayal. When it was enough, I slipped the phone back into my pocket. It felt like I was carrying a nuclear bomb. I walked back to my car. My body was drenched, but I felt no cold. I felt empty. Inside my car, I didn't start the engine right away. I punched the steering wheel as hard as I could. Once, twice, 3 times. Silent blows, each one screaming what my mouth could not. "All right," I whispered, my voice foreign even to myself. "You want to play with fire, I'll build the hell." That night, the kind and forgiving Adrian Cole officially died in that cold parking lot. In his place, an actor was born, ready to perform the greatest role of his life. I started the engine, wiped my tears, and put on a blank expression. I drove home. I had to prepare a smile to welcome my wife. I sped through the rain, making sure I arrived before them. I had to get home first. I had to shower, not just because I was soaked, but because I felt filthy after witnessing what I saw. I wanted to wash away my remaining innocence. That night, Claire still hadn't come home. Usually, I'd be pacing, checking my phone, worried something had happened to her. But not tonight. Tonight, I whistled softly while chopping onions in the kitchen. I cooked her favorite, special fried rice. Ironic, isn't it? My wife had just been satisfied by another man, and here I was preparing dinner for her. But this wasn't service. This was a psychological trap. The gate opened around 9:15 p.m. I took a deep breath and adjusted my facial muscles in the reflection of the kitchen sink. Lift the corners of the lips. Narrow the eyes slightly. Smile, Adrian, smile. The front door opened. Claire walked in with a carefully constructed, tired expression. Her hair was slightly messy. I knew exactly why. "Good evening," she hoarsely said. "Welcome home, sweetheart," I cheerfully replied. I walked toward her, spatula still in my hand. She flinched, surprised. She must have expected suspicion, coldness. My warmth confused her. "You're already home?" she asked, startled. "Of course. Work went smoothly, so I came home early to cook." "You must be exhausted from staying late at the academy," I said gently. I took her work bag and deliberately kissed her cheek. For a split second, her body stiffened. She was afraid I'd smell Victor on her. I pretended not to notice. "Yeah, really exhausted. Lots of paperwork," she replied, avoiding my eyes. "Poor thing." I stroked her head. "Go take a shower. I've prepared warm water. Then we'll eat." She looked at me strangely. Guilt flashed in her eyes, then quickly dissolved into relief. She thought she was safe. She thought she was still the foolish Adrian. "Go ahead, Claire. Wash away his touch, but you'll never wash that sin from your memory." Half an hour later, we sat at the dining table. Steam rose from the plates. "How was work today? Any trouble?" I asked casually, pouring water into her glass. "No, nothing. Just boring," she said quietly. "Oh, by the way," I lightly added, "I tried calling Victor earlier." I said his name as soft as cotton. Claire choked. She grabbed her glass quickly. "Why did you call Victor?" I smiled and stared straight into her eyes. "Wanted to ask about the warehouse report. Didn't pick up. His phone was off. He wasn't working late like you." "I don't know. I didn't really notice," she quickly replied. Her face turned pale. "Maybe he was busy," I said calmly, slicing sausage on my plate. The knife scraped against the ceramic plate. Busy, having fun. Men like Victor always have plenty of girlfriends. Claire fell silent, pushing her rice around. "Why aren't you eating? Is it not good?" I asked with fake concern. "It's good. I just feel a bit nauseous." "Come here." I stood and moved behind her chair. Without warning, I massaged her shoulders, hard. "Relax, you're so tense," I whispered into her ear. "Must be from working so hard. I'm proud of you, you know. A hard-working wife, loyal to her job, loyal to her husband." I emphasized the word loyal while pressing a nerve point harder. "Ow, Adrian, that hurts," she whimpered. Sorry, got away," I chuckled softly. "Finish your food, then rest." That night, Claire turned her back to me at the far edge of the bed. She tossed and turned, restless. I lay on my back, eyes wide open in the darkness. I felt calm, much calmer than when I cried in the car earlier. There's a strange satisfaction in watching your enemy tremble without ever raising a weapon. She was confused, guilty, and her ignorance was my weapon. Tomorrow, I would no longer stay silent. Tomorrow, I would begin digging Victor Hale's grave. I needed to know who he really was. I needed to know his weakness. I smiled in the dark. "Sleep well, my love. Enjoy your sweet dreams, because soon you'll wake up inside a nightmare." The office felt different that day. It used to be my second home. Now it felt like a battlefield. Victor arrived late at 10 a.m., claiming he had a flat tire. I knew it was a lie. His eyes were puffy, and despite the expensive cologne, I could smell faint alcohol on his breath. He'd been partying, maybe with my wife. Strangely enough, I didn't kid her anymore. "Sorry, boss, traffic in Los Angeles has no morals," he joked. "Relax, it's human," I replied without looking up from my monitor. Today, I had a mission. As Victor's superior, I had access to his schedule, and I knew that at noon, he had to go to the Riverside Industrial Warehouse for a routine stock inspection. At least 3 hours, more than enough time. At noon, Victor's car left the parking lot. The office was quiet. Everyone else was at lunch.
I stood up and closed the glass blinds of my office. My heart raced, not with fear, but with a strange excitement. I walked to Victor's desk. Messy, typical Victor. Paper stacks, candy wrappers, and a photo of himself smiling smugly.
The medication names were foreign and complex. Tenofovir, emtricitabine, ephedrins. I pulled out my phone and quickly photographed every page. My right hand snapped the photos. My ears stayed alert, listening for footsteps in the hallway. Suddenly, the sound of the office lobby door opening echoed down the corridor. High heels clicked closer. It was Miss Reynolds, the executive director's secretary. I quickly slipped the envelope back into its original place, locked the drawer, and tossed the key back into the pen holder. "Mr. Cole? That's unusual, seeing you outside your office," Miss Reynolds greeted me when she saw me standing stiffly beside Victor's desk. "Oh, Miss Reynolds. Yeah, I was just looking for a stapler. Mine's jammed," I replied casually. My acting skills were getting better. "Oh, just use mine," she offered. "No need, it's working now," I said with a smile and hurried back into my office. Once the door was shut tight, I collapsed into my chair. My breathing was ragged. I opened the photos on my phone, then opened Google on my computer screen. I typed, "Tenofovir medication." Search result: antiretroviral medication used to treat HIV infection and hepatitis B. My fingers froze above the keyboard. I typed another medical term from the referral letter: CD4 count. Search result: a test measuring the number of CD4 cells in the blood, a primary indicator of immune system health in HIV patients. My world went silent. The hum of the office air conditioner disappeared. The distant traffic noise vanished. Victor's test results showed an extremely low CD4 count. He had been prescribed ARV medication. Victor Hale was HIV positive, and judging by the prescriptions and attached test history, he had known about this condition for 6 months. He knew he was sick. He knew he was contagious. And he slept with my wife. The rage I'd felt earlier morphed into something far colder, pure dread crawling up my spine. This was no longer about infidelity. This was attempted murder. Victor had dragged Claire into his grave. And Claire? Did she know? Thinking back to how carefree she'd been yesterday, I was sure she didn't. Claire thought she was living a thrilling, forbidden romance. In reality, she was embracing a walking corpse. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. God truly had a cruel sense of humor. I wanted revenge, but it turned out the universe had already prepared a far more terrifying punishment for them. The question was, should I tell Claire immediately and save her? The image of her kissing Victor in that car replayed in my mind. Her lies, her betrayal. No, not yet. Victor had to be destroyed first, mentally. And Claire, she had to learn that every forbidden pleasure comes with a price. I would let them be happy just a little longer. I printed the medical information I found online, folded it neatly, and slipped it into my wallet. This would be my ace card. Knowing your enemy holds a weapon is one thing. Realizing you may have already been hit by the bullet without knowing it, that is true terror. After uncovering Victor's illness, I didn't go home. My feet carried me across the city to a VCT clinic, voluntary counseling and testing, located in a downtown medical district. I needed to know. I needed certainty. For 7 years of marriage, Claire and I had been intimate. If Victor was positive and Claire had been with him, the probability that the virus flowed in my blood was terrifyingly real. 1 hour waiting for test results felt longer than my entire marriage. I sat in the cold waiting room surrounded by educational posters about HIV/AIDS. I stared at my own palms. Was the blood inside them already contaminated? Would my life end tragically because of my wife's lust and my friend's betrayal? I imagined my future ruined, my body wasting away, consumed by disease, dying in an isolation ward full of regret. "Mr. Cole," a nurse called my name. I jolted up and walked into the doctor's office on trembling legs. The doctor, a middle-aged man with thick glasses, held a white envelope. His face was unreadable. "Please have a seat," he said. I sat on the edge of the chair, my hands clenched together until my knuckles turned white. "Well, doctor?" My voice cracked. "The results?" He opened the envelope, pulled out the report, and looked at me. "Mr. Cole," he began slowly, "based on the rapid test and laboratory confirmation we conducted, the result is non-reactive." I blinked. "Meaning negative?" "Yes, you are HIV negative." The breath I had been holding exploded out of my lungs. I collapsed back into the chair. I covered my face with both hands and cried. Not the cry of sorrow, but the cry of a death row inmate granted a pardon at the final second. I survived. God had given me a second chance. "But," the doctor continued, straightening me instantly, "you must remain cautious. There is a window period. If you believe you may be exposed again within the next 3 months, you must retest." I nodded quickly. "No, doctor. I will make sure there is no further risk." I walked out of the clinic with an entirely new sense of existence. The polluted Los Angeles evening sky looked beautiful to me. I breathed deeply, greedily. I was alive. I was healthy. But as the relief faded, another reality struck me. I was negative, meaning God protected me. But what about Claire? If Victor was positive and inconsistent with treatment, as his chaotic medical history suggested, his viral load must be extremely high. The risk of transmission to his partner was enormous. Claire, my beautiful wife, was she already infected? My humanity screamed at me, "Go home now, tell her, get her tested, save her life." Then Victor's smug face flashed before my eyes. Claire lying about working late, laughing behind my back. They enjoyed their sin. They laughed in my ignorance. I tightened the grip on the steering wheel. No, I would not tell Claire yet. If I told her now, she would become the victim. She would receive sympathy. She would cry and beg forgiveness. The focus would shift to her illness, not her betrayal. I wanted her to break first. I wanted her to feel what it was like to be betrayed and discarded. Only then would she face the diagnosis. I would let time run just a little longer. Call it natural punishment. She chose to sleep with fire, then let her feel the heat. I took my phone and typed a message to Victor, the message that would begin the final act. "Victor, you free tomorrow night? Come over. Claire's cooking a big dinner. It's been a while since the 3 of us got together." 1 minute later, a reply came in. "Sure, boss. Can't refuse free food. See you tomorrow." I smiled coldly at the screen. "Enjoy your last supper, my friend, because after that, I'll serve a dessert you'll never be able to swallow." The dining table was set perfectly. Scented candles lit the room. The best dishes were served. A steak with red black pepper sauce sat on the plate, juicy, tempting, and bloody. At exactly 7 p.m., the doorbell rang. I opened the door with the widest smile I could muster. "There's the big boss. Come in," I said, slapping Victor's back hard. "Hey, man, sorry, just brought fruit for dessert." "Relax, what matters is that you're here." My eyes briefly flicked to Claire standing behind me. Her face was tense, but she forced a smile. The 3 of us sat down, same positions as last week, but the atmosphere, at least for me,
was completely different. "Dig in, Victor," I said, pouring water into his glass. "My wife cooked this especially for you." "Wow, thanks, Claire. I feel bad always bothering you," Victor said, throwing her a playful glance. "It's fine," Claire replied softly. I began slicing my steak. The knife scraped against the ceramic plate. "By the way, Victor," I said, without looking at him, focused on cutting the meat. "How's your health? You've been looking pale at the office lately." Victor choked slightly and hurried to drink water. "Huh? Oh, just tired, boss. Single life, lots of night activities," he laughed. Claire let out an awkward chuckle. I stopped cutting. I lifted my head and stared directly into Victor's eyes. "Be careful, Victor. These days, a lot of diseases don't show on the outside. Strong on the surface, but rotten inside." Silence. Victor's smile faded slightly. "What do you mean?" "Like these oranges," I said, picking up the fruit he brought.
"Thanks for the dinner, boss. All right, I'll head out first." Victor left in a hurry, so rushed that he forgot his jacket. After the door closed, I turned to look at Claire, who was still frozen in her chair at the dining table. "Adrian?" Claire called softly. "Why were you talking so strangely tonight? What's wrong with you?" I walked toward her, staring at her beautiful face, now filled with fear. I didn't answer her question. I just smiled, a smile that never reached my eyes. "The food was great," I said calmly. "Claire, thank you for being such a diligent wife." I bent down and kissed her forehead briefly, a farewell kiss. Then I turned and walked toward the bedroom, leaving her alone to clean the dirty plates used by her lover. Tonight would be the last night she slept peacefully in this house. Tomorrow, the time bomb would explode. Today, I took a day off, not for a vacation, but to pack. It felt strange. I once believed that separating my wife's belongings from the closet would be the hardest and most painful thing I'd ever do. I imagined myself crying while holding our wedding dress or flipping through our vacation photos. But the truth was, I felt nothing. It felt like throwing out trash. Quick, efficient, relieving. I packed all of Claire's clothes into 2 large suitcases, her office outfits, her home dresses, her shoes, and every item I had ever bought for her. I left not a single trace of her in this house. I took down our wedding photo from the living room wall and placed it inside a cardboard box. By late afternoon, the suitcases were neatly lined up on the front porch like guests waiting to be picked up. I sat on the porch chair, sipping black coffee, waiting. The sound of a rideshare motorcycle approached. Claire got off at the gate. She looked exhausted, but still tried to smile when she saw me sitting there. She opened the gate, then suddenly stopped. Her eyes locked onto the 2 large suitcases beside me, one maroon, one black. "Adrian?" she asked, confused. She walked closer hesitantly. "You packed already? We're going somewhere? Why didn't you tell me?" I slowly placed my coffee cup on the table. Clink. The soft sound echoed sharply in the quiet afternoon. "Not we, Claire," I replied calmly. I looked straight into her eyes. "Just you." Claire let out a small, nervous laugh. "You're joking, right? This is a prank?" I reached into my bag and pulled out a white envelope filled with printed photos taken from the parking lot video recording. I tossed them on the table, right in front of her suitcases. "See for yourself." Claire picked up the envelope with trembling hands. She opened it. Second by second passed. Her face shifted from confusion to deathly pale, then flushed red with shame and fear. Photos of her kissing Victor Hale. Photos of Victor's hands on her body. Clear, bright, undeniable. Claire dropped the photos. Her knees gave out. She collapsed onto the porch floor, kneeling. "Adrian, I can explain." Her voice broke. Tears flooded her face. "Explain what?" I cut in flatly. "Explain that he's just a friend? Explain that your lips accidentally stuck together for 5 minutes? Adrian, please forgive me. I made a mistake. It was just a moment. Victor tempted me. He started it." Claire crawled forward, trying to hug my legs. I stepped back, disgusted. "Don't touch me," I said coldly. "His hands are still on your body." "For God's sake, Adrian, I love you. Don't throw me out. I promise I'll never see him again. I'll block his number right now." Claire cried hysterically, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I didn't care. Let the world know. I pulled out another document. Divorce papers, already signed. "Sign it. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow," I said, handing her the paper. She shook her head violently. "No, I don't want a divorce, Adrian. Please remember our 7 years together." "You burned those 7 years alive in Victor's car last week," I replied sharply. "You were bored with me, weren't you? Life with me wasn't exciting enough?" I gently kicked the suitcase in front of her. "Now you're free. Take your things. Go to Victor's place. He's our good friend, right? I'm sure he'll take in his friend's leftovers." "Adrian!" "Go." The single word exploded out of me. It was the first time I had ever shouted at her in 7 years. Claire stared at me in horror. She realized the forgiving Adrian was gone. That door was permanently locked. Sobbing uncontrollably, Claire stood up shakily. She dragged her heavy suitcases toward the gate. She kept glancing back, hoping I would call her name. I didn't. I stood there like a stone statue. She thought this was the worst punishment, being kicked out and divorced. She was wrong. She had no idea that the suitcases she carried were lighter compared to the burden she would carry for the rest of her life. "Just wait," I murmured as I watched her climb into a taxi in panic. "The main surprise hasn't been opened yet." I went back inside, closed the door tightly, and locked it. The sound of the lock clicking was the most beautiful music I had heard in years. The house was quiet again, but this time it was a clean silence, a pure silence. 1 hour after Claire dragged her suitcases out of my house, my phone vibrated. A message from Claire. "I'm at Victor's boarding room now. Are you satisfied? You threw me out like a trash. Watch me. I'll be happy with him. He's more of a man than you." I read the message and chuckled softly. A hollow laugh. She thought she had found shelter. She thought Victor Hale, the cowardly womanizer, would welcome her with open arms and marry her. I knew Victor well. He liked to sample. He hated commitment. Claire arriving with 2 huge suitcases was probably giving him a migraine right now. But let them argue first. Let Claire taste rejection from her secret lover. I still had one final card. The Joker, the one that would end the game. Earlier, while packing Claire's suitcase, I'd slipped a brown envelope into the front pocket of her maroon bag. Inside were copies of Victor Hale's laboratory test results and the doctor's referral for HRV antiretroviral therapy, the documents I found in his office drawer. I typed my reply. Short, precise. "Go ahead and be happy. But before you sleep together tonight, open the front pocket of your red suitcase. There's a final gift from me, so you know what kind of real man you're so proud of. Send." Now, all I could do was wait. Scene transition. Victor's boarding room. Third-person narration. Adrian's imagination. The room was narrow, hot, and smelled of cigarette smoke. Victor was furious.
"What the hell, Claire? Why did you bring this many clothes? I'm not ready for marriage. We were just having fun," he yelled. Claire sat crying on the edge of the bed. "Adrian threw me out. You have to take responsibility." Ding. Her phone buzzed. My message arrived. Confused and trembling, Claire pulled her red suitcase closer and opened the front pocket. A thick brown envelope lay inside. "What's that?" Victor asked suspiciously. Claire didn't answer. She tore it open. First sheet, a blood test result under Victor Hale's name. A bold red word stamped across the page. HIV positive. Second sheet, a CD4 count dropping dangerously low. Third sheet, proof of ARV medication purchases. Claire's eyes widened. Her breath caught in her throat. She reread the words again and again. Positive, advanced stage. Her world spun. Street noise disappeared. All she heard was a long ringing in her ears. She stared at Victor, the man she worshipped, the man she bragged about in bed, the man she slept with repeatedly without protection. "You're sick," she hissed like a snake. Victor snatched the papers, his face drained of color. "It's a misunderstanding. Those are old tests. I'm cured. No, I mean, I'm in treatment." "You're sick," Claire screamed, not from her throat, but from the shattered core of her soul. She jumped up and beat Victor's chest wildly. "Murderer! You infected me. I left my husband for you, and you gave me a disease." "Claire, calm down. Stop screaming." Victor tried to restrain her. "Don't touch me. I'm disgusted by you." Claire backed into the wall, collapsed to the floor, and grabbed her hair. Horrifying images haunted.
That afternoon, I sat at an outdoor cafe, enjoying a warm cup of Earl Grey tea. The Los Angeles sky was painted in shades of orange and violet, beautiful beyond words. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. A message appeared in the alumni group chat from my former company. I had already changed workplaces to erase bad memories. Someone shared sad news. "With deepest sorrow, we inform you that our colleague, Victor Hale, passed away this afternoon at the Los Angeles Center for Infectious Diseases. May his soul rest in peace." I stared at the screen without expression. No sadness, no sudden joy, just a flat feeling, like reading a weather report. They said Victor died after severe complications. His lungs finally gave up. He passed away alone, abandoned by friends who were afraid, and left behind by family who were ashamed. All his money was spent on treatment. The once arrogant show-off ended as nothing more than a cautionary tale in a group chat. Then, what about Claire? A week ago, I saw her by accident. I was stopped at a red light when I noticed a woman on the sidewalk, familiar yet strange. She was thin. Her cheekbones jutted out sharply. Her skin, once glowing, now looked dull and severely acne-scarred. She walked under the scorching sun, carrying a plastic bag filled with medicine, waiting for a city bus. That was Claire, my ex-wife, the woman who once demanded to be chauffeured everywhere in an air-conditioned car, the woman who once spent my salary on expensive skincare treatments. I later heard from an old neighbor that Claire was now staying temporarily at a distant relative's house. Her parents were too ashamed to take her back. She tested positive. That diagnosis shattered her, mentally and physically. She lost her job, she lost her husband, she lost her secret lover, and she lost her future. When the traffic light turned green, I pressed the accelerator gently. My car rolled past her. She glanced up. Our eyes met briefly through my tinted window. I saw deep regret in her gaze,
a pleading look, the look of a drowning person asking for help. But I didn't stop. I didn't roll down the window. I kept driving. Not because I was cruel, but because my story with her had already ended on the last page of our divorce papers. Helping her now would only prolong her suffering and reopen old wounds of my own. Let her live the rest of her life with the consequences of her choices. I took another sip of my tea. Warm. Once I thought betrayal was the end of the world. I felt like a failed man, worthless. But now I realize their betrayal saved me. If they hadn't cheated, I might still be living in a lie, embracing a wife who never loved me, and calling a venomous snake my friend. God exposed their sins to protect me. I placed my cup on the table, straightened my jacket, and stood up. The sun slowly disappeared, replaced by city lights flickering on, bright and alive. My future was out there, shining just as brightly. I am Adrian Cole. I was once broken, but I chose not to retaliate with a sword. I responded with a smile, with patience, and by letting the universe do its work. And it turns out, the best revenge is living happily, staying healthy, and becoming successful, while those who hurt you can only watch from afar, consumed by regret. I walked away from the cafe. My steps felt light. I won. Moral: never trade the sincerity of someone who truly loves you for temporary desire, because karma never misses the right address, and regret always arrives too late. Yeah,